Before we get started with this episode of the pod, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we record, the Darug people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and future. Welcome to I've Got Notes, the podcast for smart people that love dumb things on the internet. With me, Chris. From scrolling Twitter to binging on TikTok to reading all the threads on Reddit and streaming everything there is possible to stream on Netflix, somehow I've managed to take more notes on the content that I've watched online than in the meetings in my day job, which, in all honesty, is probably very concerning for my employer. But for you guys, that means I have so many opinions that probably should live rent-free in my head, but don't, and are now coming to you, well, I guess, on this podcast. So strap in and get ready for this episode. In all honesty, starting this podcast was a lot easier than starting an OnlyFans. Oh my god, we finally got here. Welcome to the very first episode, the official premiere episode of I've Got Notes. I am your host, Chris. It is lovely to have your ear-holes here and possibly your faces if I have bothered to record any video, but you'll find out on social because all of my links are in the description, or in rather the show notes. Wow, I'm so used to saying that for YouTube content, telling people to look in the description box below. I haven't made a YouTube video in about 3 years, so I don't know why that's a thing that popped into my head, but it did. So that's where we're starting off this episode. It is going to be a fucking roller coaster. That's basically how my brain works. It jumps at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It says a lot of things, and we're not ever sure what's going to come out of my mouth first because I have no fucking filter, and it gets me into trouble. So that's pretty much what you're going to have on I've Got Notes. If I ever have a guest on, I am going to apologize in advance to them because, well, this is what you get. It's a fucking hot shit show, to be honest. I guess I should probably start with where this whole podcast came from before we get into any content at all. It was born out of Insta DMs. So my friends and I would send each other minute voice notes about something that we had seen on TikTok, on Insta, on Twitter, on whatever the hell it is. We would actually send each other voice notes, so it would sound like a 3-person podcast. And at one point, I had a moment where I was like, why don't I just start a podcast with my voice? Why don't I just start talking shit into a mic the same way I'm talking shit to you guys right now and give that to the masses? Not that anyone's ever asked for it. Not that anyone has ever asked to hear what I have to say about anything. I just feel the need to share what's in my head. You know what? Sometimes people are grateful for that. Other times they're like, will you shut the fuck up? And the answer to that question is no. No, I will not shut the fuck up. Now you're hearing me. You're welcome. I'm not sorry that you're hearing me. And let's go along for a journey. That was the most summated version of anything that I could have possibly said. We are going to get into some content. I've got something to talk about. And the very first episode that we're going to do today, and the very first dissection we're going to do, is on a TikTok that one of my friends sent me about relationships, about dating advice. I guess people on TikTok seem to have this thing where they love to share their relationship advice. They love to tell you what's going on with their relationships because Gen Z oversharers, I thankfully fall into the category of millennial. So that's great, which means I probably have only like 1/10 more of the experience than a Gen Z would. But the sheer fact that I'm referring to them as Gen Z and not just people is also a matter of how fucking old I probably am. But my friend sent me a TikTok from a creator named SFK. She did a stitch with someone named Maria Grippo, and this is what was happening in the TikTok.
I went on a really great first date.
I literally hopped out of bed to make this. The creator just said she went on a really great, amazing first date. They had such great chemistry, and then he ghosted her 3 weeks later. And I've been in this situation before. Many, many times I've lost a first date being like, oh my fucking God, it's over, game over. I'm off the market. I'm changing my last name. Goodbye. And then I never hear from them again. And it's devastating. But then I started to realize that when I go on first dates, I present the best version of myself. Like, I have my jokes ready to go. I'm like, yeah, Gossip Girl's based off my life. I have a successful card game business. And yeah, mi mamá de Argentina y habla español perfectamente. You know what I mean? A first date doesn't tell you shit about a person. Like, it just doesn't. Like, you don't know them yet. So the way that I've stopped getting super attached after a first date is this, and I literally swear by this. You always have to be dating 3 people at a time. I'm running out of time, but what it does is it chills you the fuck out because you're getting attention from different people. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
I have absolutely no shade to give this girlie. You know what? She's coming in with some interesting tips. I'm going to call them interesting. I'm not going to call them bad. I'm not going to call them amazing, and I'm not going to call them shit. They are some interesting tips. By the way, none of this episode is to shade anyone. If you're wondering why my voice sounds different, first of all, I went out last night and I forgot to finish recording the rest of this episode. So we are here the next morning and I'm recording it. My voice sounds a little bit trash, but that's okay because I have a coffee. So we're going to get into it anyway. It's going to hit and it's going to be great. Just stay with me. Just stay with me for this. She opens the video with, I just hopped out of bed to film this. Firstly, I love that. You know what? You are on your A game. First of all, I wouldn't hop out of bed to record a TikTok or to record a stitch to a TikTok, first of all, if I had just watched it. So A+, babe. A+. She goes into this first thing where she's like, I've left a lot of first dates, and then she goes, I'm off the market, I'm changing my last name. Firstly, oh my God. I've had a lot of first dates. I enjoy first dates. I enjoy dating in general. But I've never left a first date with that type of energy. Like, I'm like, let me get to like a second or a third. Let me at least get to a second. Like, that's the main thing. Let me get to a second date. Let the other person have had a good time. I don't even know if that was English, but let the other person have at least had a good time, to at least text me first, to tell me that they had a great time, to be like, hey, let's catch up again. Or I message them to be like, hey, let's catch up again. But that is besides the point. We're not dissecting my love life. We are dissecting the TikTok. I'm off the market. I'm changing my last name. Girl, you need to let's just reel it in for 2 seconds. And I'm like gesturing with my hand as if it were like a fishing line. We need to reel it in for a second. It was like, it's a first date. This is not Married at First Sight. This is not Love is Blind. Like, I get it. I get the hopeless romantic thing. And I, too, am also a little bit of a hopeless romantic. And do you know who's to blame for our hopeless romantic issue? Disney. I blame Disney for all my issues with a hopeless romanticism. That it's their fault. Like, they spun these great stories, albeit they stole the story, but that's fine. That's a whole other story. Oh my God, I've said this word story about 6 times. Take a shot every time I say it. It is their fault that we're all hopeless romantics. It is the fault of Hollywood, but I'm going to say mostly it's the fault of Disney. Life doesn't work like that. Although I love that she's like loving love this much that she can be like, I've been on the most amazing first date. I'm going to change my name, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work. I'm sorry. Like, I get the meet cute and all that sort of stuff, but that doesn't happen. And if it has happened for you, great. I'm not jealous at all. I would like to know your secret more than anything, but yeah, if you'd like to tell me, send me a DM. We can dissect your DM. Send me a DM. My Instagram is in the show notes below, so send me a DM. But she then proceeds to say that she never hears from them again, and in all honesty, like, my friends have described this, and I've never really used the word, but it's called love bombing. I'm sure everyone has heard of it. I was late to the party. Leave me alone. But it sounds like she just love bombs them, which is, again, not a terrible thing. It's not a bad thing. I think people have very different ways of expressing their love and adoration and like whatever it is to them. But it's not for everyone. I have noticed with a lot of people that have been in situations of being love bombed. I have not, and I would like to say that it's probably something I don't necessarily want to try either. But I have seen it, and I've heard about it, and it's such a weird phenomenon, love bombing. Like, how much love can you give to one person in like the span of like a 2-hour date? Like, that's a very short amount of time. That is a very compressed. That is a pressure cooker environment. And you know what happens in pressure cookers? Things tend to finish real fast and not take your mind out of the gutter, you nasty. But that's what that sounds like. And it sounds like she wants it. She wants to find love. I think majority of people do. But it sounds as if she's love bombed them. So that's the first part of the video. And then she goes in to say that she presents the best version of herself. And then she rattles off a few things, which again, is amazing. But the problem, or like rather the flaw in that plan, is putting all your cards on the table from the get-go. And it's like, where's the mystery? You know? Where is the mystery? Men are dumb. I'm going to say that as one. Men are fucking dumb. They can't take a cue for shit. But like, you're playing like an entire whodunit game. You're playing an entire game of Clue in one night. And you're revealing who the murderer is in the span of 2 hours. That's not how this works. You're not a movie. Remember that. You are a long-running TV show. You are Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives, Neighbours, Home and Away, although Neighbours got cancelled. But it's back again, so that's fine. You know, you're one of those. You're a long-running TV show with a lot of seasons. She compares her life to Gossip Girl. Babe, that had 8 seasons. We had 8 seasons to get to know these characters, and the ending was shit. But we had 8 seasons to get to know these characters, or 7. I can't remember the complexities of it. They had layers. You as a character, you in your life, you are complex. Don't be out here giving yourself or giving away all of the secrets in 2 hours. Yeah, put your best foot forward, but don't lay out all the cards on the table. Like, put out like 2 or 3 out of a hand of like 10. I don't know how many cards you meant to hold. What is this, 7 cards or something? I don't know. I don't know. I don't gamble. I gamble with my liver occasionally, but that's a different story. So yeah, you are a long-running TV show. You're not a movie. You're not here to give it out in 2 hours. Like, add a bit of mystery. Add a bit of fun to this. Like, make them work for it, you know? Don't just be like, here's the entirely best version of myself. Put a couple of filters on it. Lie if you have to. But men are dumb. They're not going to pick it up anyway. They're going to be like, haha, yeah, boobies. That's it. She then continues on to say that although a first date doesn't tell you shit about a person, you don't know them yet. And I mean, like, realistically, by putting like the best version of yourself out there, yeah, of course you don't know them. You're adding like all of the fucking Valencia filters. And if anyone clocks that reference to what I'm saying, and I'm not just meaning it in like a Instagram Valencia kind of way, you win at life, and I love you very much. But realistically, by putting the entirely best version of yourself, like, yeah, but also you don't want them to know every single detail. Like, you obviously don't want the person that you're on the date with to realize that, yeah, you like to do some weird fucked up shit. You have some weird tics, whatever it might be. Like, you still serve up something, but not everything, you know? This isn't a 7-course dining meal. This is like a quick Macca's, like fast food type of situation. Like, put it out there. Put it out there a little bit. Just give them a little taste tester. This is a Happy Meal scenario. You want them to come back, but also maybe not to Macca's, because that could potentially just cause some gut issues. I'm just saying. And by the end of the video, she comes to this whole, like, apex. Is that what we're going for here? She comes to this whole apex. She comes to the summit. She comes to the conclusion. That's where we're going for. Wow, this is how my brain works. She comes to the conclusion that now, in order for her to chill the fuck out, and this is the advice she's given at the end of the video to everyone, and I'm sure she's probably given it to her friends too. Again, it's not terrible advice. It's actually pretty sound and logical. Date 3 people at the same time. Firstly, it is not difficult, but it's also not the best for your mental health. Try to date 3 people at the same time. Date people at the same time. Wow, that's a lot, but it's always not the best idea to date 3 people at the same time. I can say that from experience, because that ends poorly in some respects. In other respects, it might end well, but it does. She's not wrong. It does chill you the fuck out, because you're not putting all of your energy and all of your time in, and investing all of this time into one person, only for them to like turn around like, you know, a week later and be like, silence, ghosted, done, not coming back. You know what I mean? So there's plenty in this TikTok that is not terrible. It's very interesting. She has come from a very interesting perspective on dating. Again, I come back to the fact that she hopped out of bed to make this. This was fucking A grade, but it was good. It was good. And I'm glad I dissected it. I'm glad my friend sent it to me. It was for nothing to do with my life. It was to do with my friend's life. And she was saying that the advice was actually pretty good. And I was like, hold on, let me send you some notes. I definitely had some notes on this. But it wasn't a terrible TikTok. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Send me a DM. Let me know. Tweet me. Tell me. Like, I want to know. Do other people share these same... I'm not going to call it an issue. What's the word I'm looking for here? Do other people share the same perspective on it? Like, do you go on a first date and are you like, well, now I'm off the market, I'm changing my last name? Like, do you put it all out there on the first date? Or are you more of like let me just hold a few things. Let me be like a little mysterious. Let me play. I'm not going to say a game, but let me play kind of like a different facade, a different side of myself. Let me show them a side, not all of the sides. You know? You're not a dice. Show them the one. They don't need to get to the 6 straight away. Anyway, that is all the notes I've got for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for the very first episode of I've Got Notes. I'm so happy you were here. This is probably going to be listened to by like 3 people, and one of them is going to be my mother. So thank you to the 3 people that listened to this episode. I'm glad you were here. If there were more of you, please follow me on the socials. They're in the show notes below, and also that's where you'll find the video that I use the audio from in this episode. So if you want to go check it out and give that creator some love, then by all means, please do. Her video is actually really fucking good. Oof, that is the official end of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to I've Got Notes. Once again, my name is Chris. You will find all of my links in the show notes below, and make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast fix. And don't forget to rate and review the show. I mean, good or bad, preferably not the bad. I would love to hear what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next episode, because what the world needs is another podcast. Love ya. Bye.